You all got a bulletin? Did y'all fold it in half? Did y'all look at the front of the bulletin and that give you maybe an idea of what tonight is about?
We're talking about purpleness. You're a very
Purpleness.
person.
If you don't know why the front is purple,
We're talking about not creating purple.
we watched a funny video last year. Oh, you know what it's about? Oh, Corey does always wear purple, but he might not anymore after tonight. No, we watched a video last year, and maybe if you weren't here that week, the guy on the video, I don't remember what it was all about, but he said, boys are blue, girls are red, put them together, you make purple. And so ever since then, purple has become a code word for us in the youth group for sex. That's what it's a code word for. So that's what I actually want to talk about tonight, because I haven't done a sermon ever since I got here. You guys stop talking. I haven't done a sermon or a whole night based around sex ever since I started being youth pastor here. And this is really something, I've sprinkled it in throughout. I haven't done a whole night on it. But it is something it's a really important topic. I probably should give it more attention, but we talk about it so much in other sermons. We just don't usually have a whole night about it. And we've been going through 1 Corinthians since January. And now we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and that's what it's about. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I really don't think this will be that awkward, guys. But if you've got the verses on the back, this is a part of 1 Corinthians 6, verses 13 through 20. Great passage of Scripture. And this is a passage about how Christians should honor the Lord with our bodies. So we'll start here at the first verses. I don't have a PowerPoint tonight because I want you guys to read these verses on the back and follow along with me. So start right here at the top. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. So right there we get the first truth about sex. That's what my message is called tonight, the truth about sex. The first truth is we should honor God with our bodies. That is something that we should do as Christians. And it would be just really easy to think, hey, my body's mine. I should be allowed to do what I want with my body, because if there's one thing that you own, it would be your body, right? That's one thing someone could never take away from you. And so we would think, if I could have ownership over one thing, I should be allowed to do what I want with my body. But even God says, nope, it still matters what you do with your bodies and how you behave. The people that Paul was writing to, the Corinthians, they had this theory. They had this theory that they thought made them so holy. And they thought, we the Corinthians, we know that one day God's going to give us a glorified body. So it doesn't matter what we do with our bodies now. It doesn't matter how much we eat or whatever. It doesn't matter who we have sex with. They thought, because our bodies aren't going to matter in heaven. So they thought that made sense to them. That it doesn't matter what we do with our bodies because they're all going to disappear someday. But Paul was writing to them and he said, hey, it still matters. God still cares a lot what you do with your body, even on this side of heaven. Even though we're going to get a new body someday, he cares what we do with our bodies now. So the first reason that Paul gives in these verses that we should restrain our sexual behavior is because it honors God. And that should really just be, no matter what other reason I give you tonight, that should just be the most important one, because it honors God how we live with our bodies. Okay, let's look at the next verse here. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ himself? Shall I then take the members of Christ and unite them with a prostitute? Never. Do you know that he who unites himself with a prostitute is one with her in body? For it is said, the two will become one flesh. The second truth there is that when you have sex with somebody, you are uniting with them. Now listen, guys, we know that it's wrong to have sex with a prostitute. That's the example Paul uses. And we know that already. But what exactly is sexual immorality when the Bible uses that word? Some people say, that's what a lot of people ask today. Well, we know that sexual immorality is bad, but what is sexual immorality? Is it just this, or is it just these things? And people ask what it is. The Bible lays it out. Leviticus chapter 18. Sexual immorality is sex with a family member, with someone of the same gender, with an animal. That's actually in there. With someone you're not married to, or adultery. That means cheating on someone who you're married to. So those are all bad. And there's actually other things that I don't really need to get into every single one of them. But those are all examples. Yes?
Can adultery be like something I'm married to as well?
Adultery?
Yeah.
Adultery is just whenever you're cheating on, you can only commit adultery if you're married. But if you're not married to someone and you have sex with them, it's called fornication then. It's still bad, but there's just different words for those things. So anyway, those are some of the ways of sexual immorality. That's a good question though. But here's the real kicker, is right at the end of those verses, what does Paul say? He says, "For it is said, the two will become one flesh." Does anyone know what verse he's referring to whenever he says that? He's referring to Genesis chapter 2, way back at the beginning of the Bible, when Adam and Eve first came together, and it says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." That's what Paul uses to describe it. Now, some people might think, oh, well, you can have sex with whoever you want, but it's only whenever you're married that you become one flesh. And Paul says, no, it's not like that. You're one flesh with whoever you have sex with. So someone would think, oh, a prostitute, someone that you just give money to sleep with you. Some people would think that's like the least, that is... Maybe I should pause for just a second. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I should have put a rating on this sermon tonight. Is this okay? Is this okay? Okay. Someone, let's go. Sorry, guys.
He's like, what's going on?
It's Keenan.
I know. He's almost old enough, but...
I know. No, not now.
He's not close.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go ahead and try to finish up then. At 7:35. I still got a lot of time. Okay. Now, someone would think, oh, a prostitute. That's like someone you just give money to sleep with you. That is like the least emotional bond, the least, I don't know, what's the word for it? The least intimate sexual encounter someone could ever have is with a prostitute. Because it's like there's no affection there. It's just a transaction. But Paul still says, even with a prostitute, you're becoming one flesh. And that's bad. You're only supposed to be with one flesh, with one person, just the person that you marry someday. And you're supposed to stay married to that person. There's only very specific circumstances that you could get divorced. I want to do marriage later, and I'll get into that stuff later. But you're just supposed to be one flesh with one person, just one time. Like one person forever is what I mean. Anyway, let's go on to the next verse here. 1 Corinthians, verse 18, Paul tells us, flee from sexual immorality. So this is the third truth about sex. Sexual immorality ought to be, my notes have this backwards. My note says committed at all costs. No, it should be avoided at all costs. Sexual immorality, I don't know how I typed that in the complete opposite. Sexual immorality ought to be avoided at all costs. That's why he says flee right there. What does it mean to flee? Yeah, flee with fear. That's a good, I didn't think about that, but yeah, whenever you flee, you're usually afraid. Paul says to flee sexual immorality. You're not just running away from it. It's like you're afraid of it. But yet, like what a lot of Christians, how they treat sex, they treat it as if the Bible says, well, you can get as close as you want as long as it doesn't become sexual immorality. Just don't commit sexual immorality, but do whatever else you want. He doesn't say that. He says flee from it. He says don't even get close to it. If you can avoid it, do that. How do you flee sexual immorality? There's several ways you could do that. One of the ways, and you guys might think I'm just a weirdo for saying this, some people do not kiss until they're married. Some people say, I'm going to wait until I'm married and not kiss on my wedding day. There's people who do that. And maybe you think, oh, that just seems impossible. How could someone ever do that? People do that all the time. In fact, isn't that what the guy at Quad said? Yeah. Yeah. The guy at Quad was even saying that too. He said, yeah, I can't remember exactly how it went, but the guy at Quad did a sex thing, and I'm not doing this just because the guy at Quad did. I already had this stuff planned. But he gave the best talk and probably the least awkward sex talk I've ever heard. I don't think I can pull that part off. But anyway, there's tons of stories of people out there who have done that. So that is not something impossible. One good rule of thumb, don't put your hands on your boyfriend or girlfriend anywhere that clothes are already covering up, okay? If clothes cover it up, you don't need to put your hands under there. That's a really good rule of thumb. That'll help you flee from sexual immorality. And probably the best advice I can give you too, don't dwell on like sexual thoughts. Because that just, when you just think about sexual things, that just puts you in the mindset of making it easier to go those places. If you just push bad thoughts out of your head, lustful thoughts, if you just push those away, it is so much easier to like not get into trouble, get into a situation where you're going to have sex with somebody, because that's not even where your mind is. And something else really good that guy said at Quad, when I know most of you guys weren't there, but he was talking about, he works in Hollywood as an extra on movies. And when he's at a TV show or something, he said they'll come out to the extras and they'll say, hey, here's the scene that we need some people for. Here's what's going to be going on in the scene. And if it's something bad, he said that he would just not go be a part of the scene then. He would leave the studio or whatever. He's not going to be in a scene that he thinks is bad. But you guys remember him saying stuff like that? Okay. So when he said that, he said, it's really easy to say no, because people will say to him, how could you turn down that opportunity to be in that movie or whatever? Just because you heard what was in it, why would you even turn down a great career opportunity? And he said, I didn't decide in that moment not to be a part of that stuff. He said, I decided long before, that's just somewhere I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go and be involved with those things. So he made the decision before he even stepped foot in that studio, this is the kind of stuff I'm not going to do. And as Christians, that's what we need to do with our sexual lives. We need to say, hey, this is what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to cross these lines. I'm going to flee sexual immorality. And then in those temptation moments, it's not even something that you have to fight in those moments, because you've already decided before you go on the date or before you see whoever, you're not going to go there with them. You've already decided that up front. So it's not even something that's going to enter your mind, oh, I wonder if we might accidentally, I say accidentally, I wonder if we might just let our passions carry us away and we, I made it awkward, sorry.
A little bit.
But they say,
You just had to continue that.
I know. They say, oh, what if tonight is the night and we just can't control ourselves anymore and we have sex?
Okay.
Then what if they think something like that? Okay, don't even have those if you think that might happen, just don't even go out with the person, okay?
Something came up.
If that's what you think might happen, just walk away from that. And finally, there's one more thing I wanted to say. I figured this would be the best place to bring it up. You guys know what happened in Joplin the past few weeks with at the high school, the girls,
Dropbox.
the Dropbox account, and they had all these pictures of girls in there who had been taking pictures of themselves naked, right? Sending them to their boyfriends. The boyfriends were collecting all of them in one place, and then the pictures got out. And there's the police there, and I've heard rumors that people were arrested.
But there weren't people.
I've heard that there were over 50.
There were not.
Then the police department said they weren't, so I just really don't know what's going on.
Not arrested,
Do you-
they were just asking them questions.
Did they put him in handcuffs?
Yes, just
Okay.
whatever.
They didn't put him in handcuffs? Okay, so anyway, but what we know for sure is the facts of, well, these girls had these pictures out there, and this is what happened. And what I saw on Facebook and stuff, people were talking about it, and let me tell you what my first thought on it was, and I'm not trying to be mean to the girls who did it. I think they've learned a lesson from through all this, but they shouldn't. My thought was, of course it's wrong for these guys to be collecting the pictures, but that wouldn't have even happened if the girls hadn't been taking those pictures of themselves in the first place. Those pictures never would have got out then if they hadn't been doing that. And so that's something that, several months back, I had to talk with you guys about sexting, just a brief one, not a whole message on it. But I talked about why it's just stupid to take those kind of pictures of ourselves. I directed it at the girls, and people were like, hey, why are you targeting the girls with this? And I only did that because it's mainly the girls who do this kind of stuff. Guys, I'm sure, do it too, definitely. But it's mainly girls that this kind of thing happens to. And that's why I say to the girls, never do something like that for a guy. Take a picture of yourself showing some revealing part of your body. Because, listen, I know the girls, they were saying, oh, my boyfriend would never show anyone else that picture. He would keep it between us. My boyfriend loves me. He wouldn't do that. If he's the kind of guy who's perverted enough that he wants you seeing those kind of pictures, then you cannot trust him to just keep it a secret, okay? If he's if that's something he's even into, he is not trustworthy and you should not be with him. So that it is very stupid. Yeah, yes.
You send him a picture of your foot.
Send him a picture of your foot.
Such a comment.
That's weird.
Well, it doesn't have anything on it, so it's what you want it.
And I looked on Facebook, and people were saying, oh, all these people who were mad at the girls for taking those pictures in the first place, they said, what you're doing is you're just blaming the victim. And I'm like, no. They say you're just blaming the victim whenever you do that. Hey, listen, whenever you call someone a victim, you're acting like they were completely innocent and that something just bad just happened to them. And that wasn't the case. These girls had revealing, if someone kidnapped them and took pictures of them or something, that'd be one thing, but that's not what happened here. These girls just voluntarily did that and sent them out. So they're not totally innocent in this. Those guys, whoever did that, they're in big trouble, they should be. But the girls could have prevented this whole thing if they had just never done that in the first place. So, I would blame the victim because they're not really victims. They brought this on themselves. And what else was I going to say? And something else I saw on Facebook. People were like, well, it's not a girl's fault if she gets drunk and passes out at a party and people take pictures of her. And I'm like, that is still her fault. People were saying that. I'm like, come on. If you're getting drunk at a party, stuff is like that is going to happen. That's still your own fault. So that's a good lesson. Don't get drunk. Don't go to parties like that. And don't date people who want those kind of pictures. And that was just one part. I'm going to wrap it up. Let's look at these last verses. Paul says here at the end, all other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you've received from God? You are not your own. You were bought with a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. So the fourth truth, and the one we're going to stop on tonight, sexual sin hurts yourself, okay? It hurts you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Sexual sin will hurt your own self. First of all, how does it hurt you physically? I'll give you 3 ways. STDs, AIDS, and babies. Maybe you're like, hey, why would you put babies in there?
Babies are adorable, dude.
Babies are awesome. Well,
Thank you, David.
none of you guys are ready for a baby.
You're welcome, by the way, for that.
Yeah. I've got a prop tonight.
Wait, are those supposed to be babies?
This is not, no, this.
Those
Okay.
are STDs.
He's actually right. Okay, if you get an STD, did you know that there are it's not really for sure, at least a fourth of all people, it says in the United States, have an STD. Some statistics say a third. It starts at a fourth, some people say a third. And I thought, a third, that seems really crazy high. But most places say it's at least a fourth of the population of America has a sexually transmitted disease, okay? So if you have sex with 4 people, there's a really good chance that you're going to get an STD. Because statistically, one of them has given you one, if you have sex with 4 people. So that's why it's so high in America, this rate of STDs, because lots of people will have sex with more than 4 people. If you get AIDS, that's a death sentence. If you get a baby, that's a life sentence. But for real though, none of you guys are ready to have a baby, right? None of you guys are nowhere near having babies yet. So don't do that to yourself. So those are 3 things. And I was thinking, how do I show just how prevalent? I got a bucket that was too big, but this was the closest in size they had.
Let's do the smacker. Why?
Does she need it?
said something.
Does she need it?
I need
Okay.
smacker.
Here, see all the white balls in here? There's like about 100 or 120 balls in here. The white ones represent clean people. They don't have any diseases or anything, okay? The orange ones are people who have an STD.
The yellow ones?
That's about the percentage of the population that has AIDS. So, yeah, it is disturbing. Who would want to take a chance sleeping with someone and just see what color of ball you pull out? Who would want to take that kind of risk? What are the chances you're going to get an orange ball whenever you pull it out?
You have to do it with your eyes closed.
You already got yours.
You want me to pull it out?
That's why I just did it.
Do you want to take a chance?
Yes.
Okay.
My hand is
Start right here.
Look away.
Wait,
Don't
no.
look. Don't look.
To look, you have to dive in.
Okay. She got lucky. She got lucky. Let's see what happens to Jonathan.
STD, what is this?
That's STD, Jonathan.
Go for yellow. Go for yellow.
Come on, stick
Dude,
it out.
nice. Let me get the same.
Okay, that's.
I'm going away from this side of the room.
Hey, you just push this count. It fell.
Yeah. You just got lucky.
Luke, let me hear it.
I
Give me
did.
another round.
liking me.
So fun. Luke.
Can I go outside now?
Your turn.
Oh! Yes! Hunter's gonna die.
Good for you.
This is my Oh, I like those ones.
Oh, okay. Nobody tell David. Actually, maybe we should all warn David. No, I'm just kidding.
Everyone go with Luke.
Okay. Don't throw them at me, guys. Don't throw those at me.
Luke, you got it yellow. That's it. Emily,
I just hunted for someone. Okay, now you guys see that we just, basically everybody in the room took one? Okay, if you want to throw it back. You can't, now see, here's the thing. You can't get rid of an STD. You can't just throw it back at the person.
You should be able to.
Once you've got it, you know, some of them are curable, some of them aren't, some of them kill you. AIDS isn't the only one that can kill you. There's lots of them. Did you see that we just did that little experiment here in the room? And like a third of you guys got an STD and one of you died. Just from that.
I have a great question. Why did my brother die? Nancy's the one who decided to grab the yellow one.
All right, guys. So listen.
I blame the milkshakes.
I know I tried to get a prop to make it kind of funny, but it's a real life thing. Who would want to take the chance on getting an orange ball? Nobody would want to take that chance.
What about yellow?
I didn't even want to pretend.
Guys, it's not worth taking the shot. It's not worth taking the risk. And I had another prop here. And this is just a calendar, just a cheap one I got at the store. Okay? Let's say that some guy, July 5th right here, this is his purple night, okay? He's like, one night, yeah, I'm going to finally go there. Okay? And then he gets an STD. Every day after that, he's got to live with this sexually transmitted disease, okay? Every single day, not just for the rest of that month. It's going to go into the next month. It could be permanent, just for that one night, the one purple night right here, and then for the rest of his life, all the way until he runs out of the orange marker. But think about that. He's got it just for that one time. He's got to live with that for the rest of his life, possibly. Okay? So physically, that's just one of the ways. Physically, it's not worth it. Okay? If you wait until you're married, you know what's great is that I never had sex until I was married, and so I never had to worry about getting an STD. And I had friends in school that would freak out, and they'd be like, "Oh man, I got to go to the doctor. I think I might have an STD," or "Oh gosh, I'm afraid my girlfriend's pregnant. You know, my girlfriend thinks she's pregnant." When that would happen, I would think, "Man, I'm glad I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff." That'd be a terrible thing to be afraid of. It's like to be going through college and just be trying to build your life up and get ready for the rest of your life. You know, a baby might come in and of course, I'm not trying to be anti-baby, but if they come in before you're ready to be a father and before your life is on track, where you have like a stable home or whatever, a baby's not a good thing. You know, it could derail your life. You won't get to do the things that you wanted to do. That can happen with
It can mess with the child's life too.
It can. It could be really hard on that child. He won't get to grow up. It's better for him to just wait and be born at a time when. Now, of course, if someone gets pregnant,
Wait, it's not his choice.
well, I'm not speaking. As far as abortion goes, that's never an answer. People use that as an excuse. Oh, well, I got pregnant. I didn't want to. I'll have an abortion. That is terribly evil, to have an abortion because you're ending a life then. That's worse than the sexual immorality stuff. I mean, whenever your result in that, that's actually what happened with David, isn't it? He killed someone to cover up his sexual immorality with Bathsheba, his adultery or whatever. He killed someone to cover that up, and that's what people do today. When David did that, just a second, Ben, he was committing a worse sin then. He went out and killed somebody to cover up his sin of the sexual immorality. But that is what people do all the time today. Okay, we'll wrap it up. I know this is kind of a long one tonight, but it's such an important topic. Ben, do you have a question?
Yeah, David didn't kill anybody. He just stole a duck.
See what?
He stole a duck.
He stole a duck.
VeggieTales.
Oh, okay. I didn't know the VeggieTales version. Ben, we're going to have a Bible study later. Okay, so listen. People, it's okay for them to be in here now, where I'm just about done. People will say, oh, the Bible's so Puritan. I don't know what voice. I have no idea.
Do New Yorker voice.
I don't know what that was. They say, oh, the Bible's so restrictive. It tells people not to have any fun. But you know what? If people just followed what the Bible said, then all these STDs and AIDS and unwanted pregnancies, those would all end. Okay? If everyone just started following what the Bible said, STDs would just disappear. They wouldn't be spreading around anymore if people just followed the Bible. But the world keeps getting farther and farther away from the Bible, and that's why you see these STDs and stuff just like exploding. Why don't you back up just a little bit, Damon? This isn't about the balls thing, guys.
David, get out of here.
Damon, it's just a little bit too close.
These lost me.
Dude, she's an orange ball. You don't want to be around.
No, it's not about the orange ball. It's just about...
I have a joke for you.
Guys, okay, calm down. Eyes up here. We're almost done. Physically, that is why you would want to wait till you're married. But emotionally, you just don't want to have the guilt. That's the second thing. It's emotionally, you just don't want to deal with the guilt. And people who do that before they're married, I looked up a statistic and it said over 70% of teenagers will regret having sex as early as they did. Okay? And 100% of the Christians I've talked to who had sex before they were married regretted it. Okay? They always regret it. So that's just 70% of the world says they regret it. 100% of Christians say they regret it. You don't want to just be one of those people who has the emotional regret. And finally, spiritually, like I said at the beginning, the most important reason that you shouldn't do it is because it's a sin against God. That is above all else. We're supposed to honor God with our bodies, even if it had no physical or emotional consequences. Even if this wasn't a thing, it would still be a sin against God. And that's the most important reason why we don't do that. So, and you don't want to wake up the next day feeling dirty, feeling regretful already, thinking, oh, I wish I'd never done that and given in. So don't just remember this, but just remember what the Bible says. Because once you lose your virginity, it's not something you could just get back. It could never come back. So let's stay pure. Let's all stand, and I'll pray and we'll dismiss. Thank you guys all again for being here tonight.